Hello, my name is Panchèvre. I am the founder of Prepped, and in this tutorial video, I will be introducing you to Congress, which is one of 4 applications that Prepped has built. As the name suggests, Congress is designed for congressional debate, so the application makes congressional debaters more efficient at researching, practicing, and competing. Here I am on our website for Congress, prep.in/Congress. Let's jump into the application, which is congress.prep.in. Of course, I'm using the Chrome browser. As you know, Prep runs exclusively on Google Chrome. So this is the Congress app. Let me orient you very quickly in terms of what you're seeing, what's going on. I am on the Dockets page, which is the first page you reach when you land into Congress. Like with all the Prepped apps, you can click on the Prepped icon on the top left to navigate through the different Prepped apps. In the far right, you can click on your profile picture to open up the user menu on the right. And then here on the left, you've got the navigation bar. So the Dockets and Bills page is the page I'm currently on, which we'll spend some time on in a moment. You've also can access the Newsfeed, which is our autofiler that captures over 100,000 articles from 50 different news sources. You've got the round interface, the parliamentary procedure guide, and the Precedence Tracker. So we're going to go through all of these in the next few minutes. Then, of course, at the top, you can search articles. If you click on the search bar icon, that's going to search all of the articles that you and your teammates have saved to Prepped, any Prepped app, Congress extemp in the library. If you click on the globe icon, that will run a search through all the Newsfeed articles that have been autofiled. And then, of course, you've got some filter options here as well. So let's talk about the Dockets page. So you'll see right here at the top, you've got My Dockets. And if you click on this, it allows you to scroll through and basically filter out the different dockets that you have saved to your account, that you or your teammates have saved to your account. It lists the dockets in order of how they were saved. So the TFA Fall 2017 docket is the one that I have most recently saved. And of course, when you open a docket, you have the bills appearing beneath it, the name of the bill, and then these little status icons show you how many articles have been saved to the bill, how many arguments have been created, and how many speeches have been created. And of course, you can also run a search and you can sort of filter out the bills by bill name if you want to very quickly access something. One last thing to point out, you do have this filter option here, so you can filter, you can click on this button up here to open up the filters, and then you can rearrange the way the bills are being displayed, whether it be alphabetical or those with the most speeches or the most articles or the most arguments. So you may be wondering, how do we get a docket saved in the first place? If that's your question, it's a good question. You've got this add docket here in the far right corner. So the first time you use Congress before a docket has been saved, you'll actually see this page. So you'll be instructed to save a docket. So again, if you open the filter option, you'll see that we are currently looking at dockets for the 2017-2018 school year. There are only, as you can tell, 2 dockets that have been uploaded as of today, August 14th. But if we go back in time to last school year and we hit apply, we had here at the bottom, you can see 226 dockets. So how do we get from 2 dockets to over 200 dockets over the course of the year? Well, we rely on you to tell us which dockets you need. So if you can't find the docket that you need, either by scrolling to the list or just by running a search for it, you're going to want to request a docket. And that's the blue button over here on the right. So you click on that. You would type in the name of the tournament or the league, and then you would provide a hyperlink to the docket. So typically they're posted online as PDF files. You would give us a link there. We prefer getting some sort of a text file. So if you can, or if you don't have a link, you can email hello@prep.in. If you can send a Word file or a text file to Prep, that's great. It's easier for us to work with. But otherwise, if you have an issue with the link, maybe you don't have one or it's not working, you can always email us and we'll go ahead and upload the docket as well. So you would request a docket if you can't find what you need. We will upload it within 48 hours and then we'll notify you once it gets uploaded. But otherwise, and then of course when you find a docket, you would click the save button and that will save it. It's important to note that for the moment we cannot delete or remove dockets, and the reason is actually a deeply architectural reason, just in terms of the nature of how the articles and the arguments and the speeches are all sort of tied and integrated together throughout a team account. Deleting the docket would actually be really problematic. We do hope to adjust this at some point, But for now, just keep in mind that when you save it, you're saving it permanently. And so if you're using a free account, save your docket wisely because you only get access to one docket as part of a free team or with a free one account. So I just navigated back to the My Dockets page. Again, so you have the bills here. We can open up a particular bill, and it's going to show you the actual bill content. So this is all coming directly from legislation. And then the research that you or your teammates have uploaded to the specific bill. So you can upload articles, you can create arguments, and you can create speeches. And we'll now take a moment to show you how to do all three of those things. So this bill is on net neutrality, and here I have an article from Wired Magazine on net neutrality. So we're going to start by saving this article to Prepped. So I just clicked on Fast Catch, which is the Prepped trophy icon in the top right corner. Just like that, the article was saved to the library. Then if you click the blue Save to Congress button, you'll see a list of all the dockets you've saved. If you open up a particular docket, you'll see the bills. So you can just do a search. Net returns this one bill. So this is the only bill that I have about net neutrality. And I'll click Save. And just like that, the article gets saved to that bill in Congress. Now, of course, there's more to the Fast Catch Chrome extension than what we just saw. If you haven't yet seen the tutorial video on Fast Catch, I would encourage you to check it out. You'll get details about the settings and also how to use the Save to Extent feature. But this video is about Congress, so we will close this and we will navigate back to the Congress application. So again, you have the bills here. If you click on Articles, this is going to show you all of the articles that you and your teammates have uploaded. So this is one of my test accounts, and I have a few celebrities on my team, and they've all uploaded these articles in relation to net neutrality. And then, of course, if you open up a particular article, should be familiar to you. This is the article view. This is the interface for viewing articles in Prepped. We also have a tutorial video for the article view, so if you haven't seen this yet, I would encourage you to check that out as well. But let me show you some functionality. So there's one thing in particular you can do with the article view that's really relevant to Congress, which is that you can create arguments or evidence blocks directly from your research. So what is an argument? As debaters, we're all taught that the basic structure of an argument is a claim, what you are arguing, a warrant, the evidence that supports your claim, and an impact. What is the significance or the consequence or the effects of your claim being true? So we created this arguments feature so that you can source warrants directly from your research and create these little evidence blocks. So I'll show you how that works right now. Take this paragraph right here, which is presenting a case for why net neutrality laws would be bad for the internet. And basically what the paragraph here is saying is, you look at all these great internet companies, Netflix, Skype, and YouTube, that came about in the early and mid 2000s, and if you did not have net neutrality laws in place at the time, it's very possible that larger tech companies would have just inhibited their growth by making it too slow for them to do video. But the irony here is that now those companies are the incumbents, and they're in a position where they can block out the next generation of internet companies, and that's bad for innovation. It's bad for consumers. It's not how free markets work, right? That's what this is saying. So if you want to create an argument from this content, you would highlight it, and in the highlight menu, you have this little gavel icon, which is the Congress icon. So you click on it, and first you're going to create an argument. So you can select an argument from those that already exist. So for example, I have here, net neutrality ensures a free and fair market, in which case it will just take that content and add it as an additional warrant to the argument, or you can create a new claim and a new argument entirely, which is, I'll just type this out really quick. Right, so this is the claim, and then the warrant is coming directly from Wired, and so it's what we just discussed, and the impact would be right? So you type in your claim, you type in your impact, the warrant, which is cited and sourced, is coming from your reading, And then you would select a side, aff, neg, or neutral. So in this case, we'll make this an affirmative argument. And then finally, you have this little private toggle. So in some cases, so by default, this is off, which means that all of your arguments will be shared with all of your teammates that are on your prep team account. If you don't want to share arguments with your teammates, maybe the culture of your team is such where you guys don't share actively, or you don't actively collaborate, or perhaps you're on a particular circuit where your team just dominates and your biggest competitors are your teammates. You can always make this private, in which case your teammates will see that an argument was uploaded by you, but they won't actually see what the argument is. So you could go back and edit the argument and make it public so they could see it, or you can just leave it private. At any rate, once you're ready, you would click Save, and just like that, the argument is created. So if we navigate away from the article view and go to the Arguments tab, you'll see all the arguments that have been created by you and your teammates. So this is the argument that we just created from the reading. But you can scroll through the list and you can see what Aziz Ansari and Beyonce have been saying about net neutrality, right? And so they're all marked as aff, neg, or neutral if it's something that's kind of down the road or it's more informative in nature. It's useful to point out that you can filter these out, right? So you can rearrange them by most recent, oldest, alphabetical, and you can also show, for example, just the negative arguments, and then it's going to give you that. So I think this is really useful. And let's say you're in a round and, just given how precedence is playing out, you want to get another speech in, you have an opportunity to speak in the negative. That may not have been your preferred side, but you want to take this opportunity. If you and your teammates have done research, all you do is you just filter out, the neg arguments, and you've got 3 arguments that are all sourced right here that link to the original article that will allow you to make a case for that particular, position. So these are the arguments. The last thing we'll show here is the speeches. So you can upload pre-written speeches or outlines. So in this case, Beyonce has uploaded one. And it looks like Beyonce marked this as neutral, which I don't think is the best approach. Unfortunately, I'm not logged in as Beyonce, so I can't edit her speech, but she could log in, click the edit button, and then change this to affirmative. But what you'll see is, you can type in your own content, and you can also drop in the argument blocks in here as well. So we'll go ahead and create a new speech just so you can see what that process is like. You'll click on this blue new speech button. So in case you missed it, it's right here on the right side. So you'll enter a title. You'll just put in text. And you can then drop in the actual arguments. So we can insert an argument. Just here, click Insert. And we'll just drop these in. So these are some negative arguments that I sorted from. I cited from a different source. Right? So just like that, and you can delete them too if you want. But just like that, you're going to have all of your arguments laid out there. And let me go ahead and insert that third one, which I just deleted. So some other things to point out, you can obviously manipulate the text. So you can make things bold, you can italicize things, you can underline them, you can do a strike through, you can change the color, you can apply highlights, right? So there's pretty much all the basic text editing stuff. You can put in bullet points. So you can actually create a pretty rich looking speech outline, which again, like the arguments, will be shared automatically with your team unless you click private, in which case nobody else will be able to see the speech but yourself and your coaches, but they will see that you have uploaded a speech. They just won't actually be able to access the content. So once you're done, you would just click Save Speech. And you navigate back here, and just like that, the speech was, in fact, created. So this is more or less the bill experience, right? We have the content, which is coming from the legislation. You can save articles directly to the bills. You can, source arguments or evidence cards directly from your reading, and then you can drop those arguments into the outlines of speeches, and all this stuff is shared with your team. unless you explicitly mark it as private, in which case it's not. So what we really like about the Congress application is we think it does a great job of really organizing a lot of rich functionality into a single application, giving you a simple and unified experience so that all of the different stages in your research are sort of mapped out and sequenced out. So let's navigate away from the dockets page for a moment. The newsfeed, I won't go into detail here. We do talk about this in both the library and the accept tutorial videos, but needless to say, there's just a ton of publication sources here that are automatically being filed. You can, of course, click on any one of these, and you can save it permanently. You click on the gavel icon, and you can save it into a bill in Congress. We have this little parliamentary procedure guide, so this is kind of hard-coded in there. So if you are learning Congress for the first time, or maybe you're a novice and you're not quite familiar with the procedures, this is a useful reference guide. And then even more, experienced and advanced debaters, sometimes we need a refresher, or every now and then some kind of advanced, so the smartest guy in the room or the smartest guy or girl will try to pull off some like advanced, procedural move, and this could be a good reference point to figure out how to navigate that. So let's actually create a round, right? So what is the experience like when you're competing? So you'll click on the gavel icon for Congress. This will open up the round interface, and you'll click the Start a Round button. So the first thing you'll do is you'll select a docket, right? So of all the dockets that you've saved, you'll pick the one that you're going to be debating on. So we'll pick that TFA docket. And then you'll select the bills that you're going to be using in that particular chamber. So we'll just go and grab the first 5 here. You just click the plus buttons, and the minus button will remove it. But once you've selected those bills, you click Next, and then you would enter in a title, right? So we'll just call this Prelims 1. And you start the round. And so this right here is the interface that you would have while you're actually competing. So you can very quickly navigate back and forth across all the different bills. You've got the content there. If you click on any particular bill, you've got the articles. It's going to open up the article view. You've got your arguments, and you've got your speeches, right? So everything for all of the bills is organized in one spot. You've got this timer that you can turn on or off if you just want to time people's speeches. You have this available to you. And then, of course, you have the Precedence Tracker. So let's spend a few minutes to discuss how precedence works. So you'll notice that here in the bottom right corner, the Precedence Tracker appeared once the round started. So to open the Precedence Tracker, you just click on it. And before the round begins, you're going to want to enter the names of all the legislators in the round. So I'll just enter the names of my favorite basketball team, which are the San Antonio Spurs. Probably missing a few, but this should be good for now, right? So you can enter them all at once by separating them with a comma, or you can enter them one at a time. But this is going to create all the different legislators in the round. And you'll notice that you've got next to the name of each, so you don't have to enter your name. Automatically, your name is going to be included. And you'll notice that next to the name of each legislator, you've got T-1. So this suggests that it's tied for first, right? So since nobody has given a speech, we all have equal precedence in the chamber. And so we're all T1. But when someone speaks, you would just click this Add Speech button. And just like that, it's going to add the speech to, in this case, myself. And now since I've spoken and nobody else has spoken, I've got last precedence, but everyone else comes before me, right? So someone else gives a speech, and all you do is you just click that Add Speech button. It's literally one click. The other thing you'll notice is that every time you add a speech, look at the timer here at the top corner. The timer starts counting down from 3 minutes. So if you're a PO and you're obviously running the round, this I think would be a really great tool for presiding officers, because literally you just click one button. It's going to keep track of the precedence and recency for everybody, and you at the same time you're simultaneously starting the timer, right? So you don't have to multitask. Literally one button tracks precedence and starts the timer. And so of course, as you just continue adding speeches, it's going to adjust the precedence for everybody. So something else to point out, you can also add a question, right? So if you want to track how many questions people are giving, you can do that as well. Again, that's just a single click of the button. Questioning doesn't really factor into precedence and recency, but it can factor into picking among multiple legislators that want to give a question at a particular time. So let's say you're in the questioning period and you want to really understand sort of who's given the most questions, and just sort of glancing down the list might not be the most efficient way to go about it. So what you can do is just right here you've got this sort by. By default it's set to precedence. You can switch it over to questions, and it'll show you, here at the bottom, Pao has given 5 questions to Jonte, and Coach Pop have given 3, and then Manu's given 2, right? So it kind of shows you sort of who has the priority if you're filtering by questions. So I think this is a useful feature because if multiple people are standing up, you can kind of use this, or even before questioning starts, you can sort of toggle over here and get a sense of who's given questions more frequently than others. So you can just be fair as a PO to allocate questions throughout the chamber. You can, of course, if you're struggling to sort of find the legislator to add the speech to, all you do is just type in their name and it's going to filter them out. So even if you've got a really long list, you should be able to use it quite efficiently. You've also got this little 3-dot vertical box next to each person. This allows you to kind of like edit them, right? So you can change the name if you want. You can, remove them, or you could set them to presiding officer. And what'll happen there is that they'll be, the PO, they'll kind of be taken out of the precedence, list. But every time, whatever frequency it is, whether it be an hour, 45 minutes, different links are different. But whenever the PO sort of accrues a speech, you can just add a speech to the PO so that if someone else takes over as PO, that speech will have been captured for that individual. So that's more or less it. A couple things to point out up here. If you make a mistake, you can always undo it or redo it. At the moment, it only goes back one undo. So just be very cognizant that if you do make a mistake, that's sort of how you have to do it. If you click on the name of a particular user, it'll expand and it'll show you, the exact time they gave a speech, the side, and also the bill number, right? And you can delete these. So the way this would work, if you want to sort of track this sort of like extra layer of information, the first time someone's speaking on something, you would just select one of the bills that's in your round. And by default, it's going to mark that as an affirmative speech because it's sponsorship. But then the next person that speaks will get credit for a speech in the negative. And then it just goes back and forth between affirmative and negative. And then, of course, you have this timer as well, which you can change. So the idea is that let's say you kind of just zoned out for a little bit and you missed a speech, or let's say you had to run out, for a moment, you had to go to the restroom or talk to your coach or whatever. So if you miss a few speeches, you can, hear from someone else, pass a note or talk to the person next to you and find out who you missed. And you can go ahead and add their speeches. And if they end up being out of order, you can go ahead and adjust the time, and then that's going to put them right back in the same order. And then, of course, if you mistakenly added a speech, you can always go ahead and delete it as well. So this advanced functionality is there if you need it. Otherwise, it's not in the way. And then finally, of course, you've got the sort of pause and reset button for the timer. And then the settings here allows you to clear activity. And what that will do is it will keep all the legislators in the chamber, but it will just wipe out the recorded speeches and questions. If you reset the round, it's going to wipe out everybody. And then you start from scratch. So that's the Precedence Tracker. I hope you find it useful. We've spent a lot of time, and we spent a lot of time with debaters to really sort of get the details of the product experience here right. So we hope this makes you much more productive, both just as a debater and then if you're going to take on the role of presiding officer. So that's more or less it with the Congress application, right? Again, you've got your dockets and your bills. You save articles to the dockets and bills. You source arguments. You can create your speeches. And you've also, you can create a round. And you've also got that Precedence Tracker. And then, of course, you've got the procedure guide. So it's just a lot of really useful functionalities packed into this. We think it's a really high-quality application. And we hope that it helps you become the best possible version of a debater as you can be. As always, if you have any questions or issues, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact the prep team by emailing hello@prep.in. Thank you.